This is going to sound crazy, and I don't think I've said this out loud to anybody, and I don't even know if anybody knows.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Women's Game. I'm Sam Ewis, and today I am so happy to be joined by a good friend of the podcast, a star for the Seattle Reign, and an absolute warrior for her home nation of Wales. It is my honor to welcome a living legend of the global game and now a hero of the Euros, Jess Fishlock. Jess, welcome back to the Women's Game.
Thank you for having me, Sam. It's a pleasure, as always.
This episode of Friendlies is brought to you by Verizon. Verizon is an official sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 2026, and we couldn't be happier to be working with them on the road to the 2026 World Cup and beyond. We'll be teaming up with our friends at Verizon to create incredible once-in-a-lifetime experiences exclusively for Verizon customers. Stay tuned for more on how Verizon can get you connected to the game we love. I am so excited you're here. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're back in Seattle playing with the Reign after the Euros wrapped up. I want to get into every detail of your time in Switzerland representing your country, but before we dive in, how are you adjusting back from the whirlwind? How's your body feeling? How's your mind?
It's okay. I came back just a week after because I didn't want to have too much downtime on my body. Getting older doesn't really allow that, but I thought I was fine. And then I went into 11v11 yesterday for a total time of 6 minutes. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not quite ready. It was 6 minutes and I felt like I'd been playing for 120. So maybe it just needs a little bit more time.
Yeah, I can relate. I think it takes such a toll on you mentally and physically. I remember my first NWSL game back from the World Cup. It was 2 weeks to the day after we won the World Cup, and it was in Utah at altitude. And I remember just being like, what happened to me in the 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Like, I'm in a different body, it felt like.
Yeah, I know. I was speaking to Lynn. Obviously, having Lynn around is great because she has all these experience of tournaments. And I was like, is this normal? Like, seriously, is this a normal feeling do you have? And she was like, yep. I was like, okay, as long as it's normal, then it's totally fine.
Yeah, it's a lot of like calf pain. It was a lot of calf pain for me. For some reason, I was just always like, my lower legs just hurt, like running. It's like they're not getting any oxygen. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and I am breathing way too heavy in the warm-ups. Like, literally. I am just like, this needs to change.
Okay, well, by the time this episode comes out, you're going to be feeling way better. You're going to be absolutely flying for Seattle, absolutely crushing it. You're going to be back on track. So the last time we had you on this show, Jess, Wales was fighting to qualify for this Euros tournament. Wales had never been in a major international tournament before, and you told me then that this would be your last campaign with Wales. Something we spoke about so much last year was really what a massive part of your life this team is. You played for the national team before you even played professionally, and you spoke to me about the women who you trained with as a child who really created the pathway for you to play for Wales and make sure that you stayed on that path. When you were still pushing with Wales to qualify for the Euros, how much did it feel like you were pushing to qualify for you yourself in your last campaign, but also for all those women you came up with?
Our campaign slogan for the entire, kind of our two last campaigns, our slogan that we had a heavily influence on was for us, for her, for them, which is obviously, to break it down, yes, it's for us, but also it was for everyone that had been before us. And then obviously for her is for everyone that comes after us. And we leaned heavily into it because I think the beauty of our squad right now, or the squad through the qualifying campaign and into this Euros, change is inevitably going to happen, was you had people like myself and Sophie who had been there for, 19 years for me, and I think maybe 15, 16 for Sophie. But then you also had people where it was like their first cap almost, they've had one or two caps. And I think it really epitomized the entire journey of our nation to get to this spot, right? And I think that is ultimately what got us there, but also what we had been working towards for so long. And I think that kind of made it was special anyway, but when you think of everything, it just becomes even more special,
Yeah, it seemed like such an incredible journey. And whether or not your team would make it to the Euros really came down to one game and one goal against Ireland. But you guys did it. You got through. Do you remember that moment? And what did you guys do to celebrate?
Obviously it's so hard because you do the whole qualifying like group, and then you have to do another two playoffs. And the way that it works in Europe is, you're going to get a team from Nation A in like the last kind of playoff game. So as you go through it, you kind of are like, oh, this is really hard. It's taken a year anyway, but actually it gets much harder. The final was two playoffs, one home, one away, which is great actually, because previously in the World Cup playoffs, it's only one game in the final. And when we went to play Switzerland, which was that one game, they didn't have to play the semifinal. So we had to play the semifinal and then go into this one game. Whereas this time, both teams had to do the semi and the final playoff. So it was a little bit more kind of not fair, because football, is not, but it was kind of a little bit more even. Yes, exactly. And so we were home first, and then it was the away leg. So we were away second in Ireland. What really helped us, which epitomizes our nation really, was we had like maybe just 500 fans go over to Ireland, which is huge at that time. But Sam, they were so loud. Like, I remember going through the anthem, and we were in the Aviva, which is Ireland's big stadium. There was like 25,000 there. But like our anthem was like louder than theirs. Yeah. And I think what we all remember is when we were obviously listening to the anthem, singing the anthem, but we could hear those 500 fans just take over the stadium. I think it just gave us this like unwavering belief that like this is our time and we're not gonna throw this away type thing. And then obviously we played the game, we went 2-0 up, and then Ireland brought on like this long throw, which is incredible and scary. But we persevered and we did it, and it was, the best kind of feeling ever. Kind of, I always say that I had so much emotion. I was like so happy, also so relieved, that we'd finally done it, that we finally got there. And I was also still playing, which was something that I was unsure. I knew we'd get there. I just was unsure whether I'd still be playing at that time. So kind of all this flood of emotion just kind of came down. And then you go over to the crowd, and obviously like Z's there and my dad's there and all my family's there. And it was incredible. It was an incredible experience that I didn't think could get topped until we went to the Euros.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that is next. That sounds amazing and takes me right back to like right after the 2019 World Cup final and seeing my family and just being like, oh my God, it all was worth it. Like we did it. And you just feel, even with the fans, you feel this, like we did this together. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Obviously this celebration was amazing. Must have meant the world. But then you get drawn into Group D. Crystal Dunn called it the group of drama. The rest of us were calling it the group of death. This is the group that was made up at the Euros of England, France, the Netherlands, and Wales. England, France, and the Netherlands are no stranger to major tournaments. This was your first one. What was it like as a player and for your team to know that that's who you guys were playing?
The reality of the situation, it kind of hits a little bit. Obviously, you're so excited to go because you're like, you know what? It's okay. Like, it just is what it is. What are you going to do about it? You just have to prepare and get ready for it. And, but yeah, like sometimes I was just like, I mean, anyone else would have been, just one, just anything else. But I think also for me personally, it was, this is going to sound crazy. And I don't think I've said this out loud to anybody, and I don't even know if anybody knows, but I've played in all of those three countries. So it was professionally. So it was really kind of like a full circle moment for me individually, because my first contract was in Holland, obviously went to France, won the Champions League in France, and obviously I've played in England. And it really pulled a lot of different emotions for me, because I was like, okay, well, this is great. And also this kind of, is really it sucks in its own little way, but then also to be able to have played in all of those different leagues in different countries, it was yeah, it was definitely an interesting kind of situation for me. Um, but equally, how fun to go to a major tournament and play the best teams that are going to be there, right? There's also something in that is, when you look back, you'll go, wow. And obviously England won, so it was fun to be in their group and played against a team that won the whole thing. So there's so many nuances to it.
What an incredible experience I feel for some of the younger players on your team too. Obviously for everybody, for all your fans, the country, the team in general, but to have some of the like newer players, you mentioned a few people only had 1 or 2 caps, to go and have this opportunity to play against the best of the best on the world stage. You're actually the first player we've gotten to talk to since this tournament has ended. And I think the coverage made it look like such a celebration, such a party. Switzerland as a host nation did what looked like an unbelievable job. I saw before the tournament even started, the crosswalk figures were changed to women playing soccer, which was like, what a cool touch, Switzerland. I loved it. The TV coverage was great. The social media coverage was great. Fans traveled all over from Europe to get there. There was record attendance at the games for any Euros tournament ever. What was the environment like for you as a player? What was the crowds like?
They were great. I think that's another thing about our group. Like, everybody wants to watch those teams, right?
Yeah.
And not only that, like our fans showed up, in an immense way. I think sold, one of the most tickets from our little nation, which is just incredible. And so the stadiums were great. They were a kind of really good size, like it was really loud because it was so close. Switzerland did an unbelievable job, like obviously all my family and all our team's families went over there, and obviously Z went over there too, and just said like what a great place it was to be able to have the tournament there. They did such a great job. There was like free transport with the tickets, which is huge. The transport is so good there too, and to be able to get the ticket and have free buses and trams and wherever to get to stadiums is just, almost like a genius move. So yeah, and obviously Switzerland got through and went to the quarters, which was just even kind of special again. And so it was just a really, really well put together tournament.
Yeah, amazing. Incredible to hear that. I wish I could have gone. You mentioned that, I think you said Welsh fans sold one of the most highest number of tickets, which is so cool. I also read one stat that said at this game in 2021, you guys were playing away and there were only 5 Welsh fans there at that time. I'm sure there was like reasons why, but it was still this really cool storyline to compare, because at this Euros, as many as 8,000 Welsh fans were there in Switzerland supporting you. What did you feel walking out onto the field, hearing your national anthem, hearing your fans chant your name, seeing Welsh flags? What emotions does that bring up in you?
Obviously you go into these tournaments and you'll hopefully relate, and you try to, go, oh, this is going to be the first game, this is how I'm going to feel, and it's okay. And you try and regulate all your emotions kind of before it happens, so they don't take over in games. And so I'd like really gone through like a lot of visualization and kind of all this stuff to try and really regulate the emotion so I can just play the game, right? Because football is just a game at the end of the day. And I really thought I'd like covered all bases. And then I walked out to our first game against Holland and just walked out for the warm up. And I guess like all of our fans had gone in early, which was immense. And then I walk out and all I see on the one side is just this red sea of our fans. And as we'd come out, they gave us the loudest kind of cheer. And it was something that I did not visualize that. I did not expect that. So then I had all this emotion of, the entirety of my career and our journey and everything in the last 20 years. All of those emotions just came up because you got to see how far we have come as a nation. You got to see all these people travel just to be there and go through this kind of emotion and experience with us and show up in a way that I know our nation will always show up because I know who we are as people, but everybody got to see who we are as a nation. And it was just, I don't know, it'll be something that sticks with me forever, that has got nothing to do with football, but the whole purpose of what we were doing.
That sounds like such an incredible moment, something you'll never, ever forget.
Ever.
That's so beautiful. Obviously, we're getting into these games. Every team struggled in this group. Honestly, all the games were crazy. France obviously did great, but like nobody went unblemished in this group of Group D. One Welsh fan told ESPN that this tournament was never about getting to the final for Wales. And as we were so excited to watch you all play, partly just because, Jess, we're such big fans of you here in America, you were really America's connection to Wales. Mm-hmm. And I think that there were a lot of ways for your team to get like a win in this tournament. It didn't necessarily mean you had to beat England in order to have success at this tournament. I think that a lot of like the grit and optimism that we saw in your team was captured in this moment. One of my favorite moments of the whole tournament, Wales versus France. It's the 12th minute of the game. Wales is down a goal. And now I want you to pick up this story and tell us from your perspective and your like memory, what happened on this goal.
The French game for us, I think, take away the result, which I know is easy to do in any kind of situation. But if you actually break down the game, I believe it's a game that shows where we're at, and also how close we are, but also kind of like just the little tiny moments of a game that we're going to learn so much from being in this group, right? And I think that's the most important thing that we got out of this tournament, because I think we actually started the game really well. We're kind of, I wouldn't say on top, but we definitely were dealing with momentum swings. And before we scored, like I knew it was coming because we'd had such a good kind of 4 or 5 minute play of like really kind of control possession, and we were like figuring out where we were going to go, and we'd worked on it the entire time. And the goal really comes from that. So the goal is itself, but actually, if you look at the game, there was 3 or 4 minutes where we were really kind of gaining the momentum. Obviously, the ball comes, we'd worked on like double movement and all that kind of stuff, which Kerry does fantastically, getting behind. And it's funny because like I know that I'm there. So I was screaming, like, just hit it first time. Like, I am there. Like, I've already visualized this, as we've talked about. This happened last night in my sleep. I know what's going to happen. She kind of cuts inside and it gets, a little bobbly, whatever. And then, so initially I'm like, I have no words right now, because I thought maybe the moment had gone. And then, deflection and the thing. And then I was there and hit it in. So it went in. It happened. It wasn't quite how I visualized, but it happened. And then obviously the VAR happened.
I know.
And I was like, well, I wasn't offside. I know that. So then I was like, oh, maybe Kerry had gone a little earlier. And I was like, please, no. Because in my heart of hearts, I knew that we had deserved that moment. And I think that was the most important thing about it all, was that, okay, maybe throughout the 90 minutes, we weren't strong enough to hold those moments the entire time. But I really wanted us to feel what it feels like to deserve a moment and to take a moment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because, games come in moments, and there were times where we were on the opposite end of like maybe not dealing with a moment as well as we could, and we would get punished. And I really wanted us to experience the opposite of that, is working for those moments and taking those moments. So then I was like, please, 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 please. And then obviously it came through. And then, I didn't know what to do, to be honest. I realized afterwards that we'd planned this whole celebration that I totally forgot about.
Yeah, I mean, the whole VAR thing, of course you forgot about it.
Yeah. And then I just ran over to, the entire group because it really has been our entire kind of journey. And yes, I was the one that scored it, but it was for all of us to enjoy and more to the point, allowing the fans to enjoy that moment, right? Because all we really wanted them to do was to be able to celebrate a moment like that and talk about it. I was at that game and I witnessed it and got to experience all those emotions that we would get to experience. So again, there's so many reasons as to why that moment was so much bigger than what it was if you just look at the results.
The goal was Wales's win. And I love the way you put it. You
course.
wanted your teammates and the fans to feel what it felt like to score a goal in that moment and to deserve the moment and to take advantage of it, because now some of these younger players on your team, they know what they're fighting for when they're trying to qualify for the next big tournament. They can remember that feeling of like Wales just scored at the Euros and this is what it feels to celebrate that. And I think that is like so powerful and something that I think everybody was happy that it happened because it was one of the best moments of the whole tournament, seeing you guys get to experience that kind of joy. And that's why we all watch, really. Even before this tournament, obviously, we are all huge Jess Fishlock fans. We all know how much Wales loves you. Wales at this tournament unveiled a massive mural of you in the shape of a soccer field that says Diolch Jess, which means thank you in Welsh. This feels like a tournament overall where actually a lot of veteran players who have helped grow this game over the years really got their flowers. Cristiana Girelli of Italy, Lucy Bronze of England, Ann-Katrin Berger of Germany, kind of like the pioneers of their national teams in their own ways, people that we really have come to revere, even here from the US. And it's incredible to see how many young stars are on the rise. Obviously, this is like a new era and like the young players are getting a lot of attention, but to see you all get celebrated in this way, I think was really, really special. How does it feel for you, Jess, to be part of this generation of all of these incredible veteran players and to really get that recognition that you helped grow the game to the place it's at?
It is huge. I think, people always say, do you wish that you were, 5 years later or 10 years later? And,
For the money.
maybe, maybe. But honestly, I don't, I think that, one, I probably wouldn't be the player that I am without all of coming from my generation. And two, it's always been about something that is like bigger than yourself. When it's bigger than you, it just feels different, right? And for me, I think with Wales specifically, and the rain, it's a very similar feeling that I go home and everywhere I go now, I see girls playing football. And when I was growing up, that just didn't happen. Like I live right opposite like this big park back home, which was my sanctuary when I was growing up. I would go over there all the time. I don't drive past there now when I go home without seeing a girls' football team training. And when I see that, it just brings me so much joy. And I think to the point of, Jirelli and Lucy and Katrin Berger, it is bigger than us, and we know that. But it doesn't mean that we're not going to compete for us, because we're competitors. We're always going to do that, Like I leave the Euros and I have all this joy and whatever, but I'm still disappointed as a competitor because I hate losing. I just hate it. Seeing the bigger picture and going home and seeing this pitch, and I got to visit here and play with some younger girls and things like that. It's priceless. It really is. And, hopefully now we can just keep growing in Wales and get to other tournaments, because why not? Right? Like, why not? Why not now? I mean, we have so many girls playing. It's kind of like the time. And I couldn't be more happier that that's where I get to sign off almost. That was the whole point, ultimately. It was never about me. The whole point was I wanted to leave knowing that Wales would be on a global stage, having pathways and having a future. That was the whole point of this.
It's bigger than any individual game, winning or losing. It's really a lasting legacy of change and opportunity for the next generation. The last time we spoke, Jess, again, this was before you even qualified for the Euros, you said that you weren't sure if there was really a path for young women to play professional football in Wales. How has your experience with this tournament maybe changed that?
Yeah, well, my hope is that it has, right? My hope is that we realize the future and the possibilities of what we're able to do now as, such a small nation. We're like what, 3.5 million. I mean, Seattle is bigger. But I think, what we lack in numbers, we really make up for in kind of determination and resilience and passion. And I think now hopefully we'll see such a rise in numbers, and it is our job and our duty really, as an association, to channel all of that into a long-lasting pathway to professional football. And that is ultimately what our job is now.
I mean, I think there were a lot of lessons learned at this Euros tournament about how powerful and successful investing in women's football is and can be. I think even with England winning again, I have actually found that to be a really positive example of having a strong domestic league and having your national team be invested in and given great opportunities. It shows that you'll win. And that should be inspiring to all federations, that if you just give it the right resources and the right investment, your team will be successful. So to me, in that way, England winning was a really powerful statement about that. You mentioned that Seattle is bigger than Wales, which I find incredible. And I know that you are back in Seattle. The season is picking back up. The second half of the season is ahead of us. So I do want to hear a little bit about what you're expecting. At the time we're recording this, Seattle sits at number 6 in the standings. There's a lot of games left to go. There have been some changes to the Reign. Mia Fishel is joining you here in the NWSL. What can fans expect from the Reign for the rest of the season?
It's going to be fun, I think. I've been back a week now, and I see our squad, and I just get excited. We have a good blend. We have a lot of younger players, which is great, but we also have experience in great areas. Obviously, Mia has just come in. Shout out to Lynn again, because Lynn is just fantastic in everything that she does and has been a huge addition for us, just on the field, off the field, mentality. Lynn, I don't need to big her up anymore. But
we love complimenting Lynn.
Oh yeah, we do.
She's just the best.
She just is the best. What's interesting right now in the league is that the first half of the season was kind of a lot of stop-start because of a lot of international breaks. But now the second half, because the windows have changed, you kind of just go right through 12 games nonstop, which actually I don't remember ever really having in the NWSL.
This is a really long break. There's no more break till the end of October.
Exactly. See, isn't it interesting, Sam? Because it's going to be a very interesting dynamic for every team. Because I don't think the league has had such a long period before of just game after game after game and no international breaks. And I think that'll really kind of help us specifically because we have such a big squad full of depth, which is, if we bring the Euros and bring England back into it, that was their secret sauce, right? I believe. Depth. And depth that you are willing to use, trusting to use,
and know what's actually going makes on. A huge difference. Yeah.
Makes a huge difference. And I think that is what I'm excited about, because that we do have that, and we're going to go into this run of games, and it's going to come down to that. And I think it'll be a real secret sauce for us.
I'm a huge Reign fan. I'm really excited for you guys. I have just one more question, and I think you're going to need to zoom way out.
Okay.
But last time we spoke, you told me that you fell in love with football because you attended a Mia Hamm football camp. And I think what has been really cool, Jess, watching your career, watching your journey with Wales, and watching how you have really instrumentally helped change the opportunities for young girls playing football in Wales. It's so inspiring. And it's one of the stories I think that is the most powerful examples of what a single player really can do and the impact that she can have, much like Mia Hamm's camp had on you. When you just recently put on this Jess Fishlock football camp and you're interacting with these young girls who are now in the same position that you were in, knowing that you can help provide them inspiration and opportunity to follow in your footsteps, thinking back to young Jess and what you needed, how do you feel now to kind of have this chance to share what helped make you into the footballer that you are, the person that you are, with the next generation of Welsh girls?
I do honestly feel like it's a duty. I really do. And it's a duty that I love, right? Like, and I want to help and make an impact and, give these girls these opportunities. I think it was funny. I've really only started these kind of camps. I link with an organization back home, Inspire Girls Football, who we do a lot of work together. But I still, even though I'm not home, I still really want to be visible. The way where I try and make it different is every time we have a camp and I can't be there, I get up at 6 o'clock every morning and I jump on Zoom and we have like a 45-minute hour slot where I connect with the girls via Zoom. They come up, they ask me questions, I speak to them, I ask them where they're playing and things like that. Because I want that connection, because we all know that in the women's game, you can kind of lose girls as they kind of grow up. And so I didn't just want it to be, oh, here's a camp, go have fun. Like, my name's there, but I'm not active. I didn't want that. And so I'm trying to find different ways in, not only is it about football, but it's also about these scenarios where, okay, you're in a group, let's build up some confidence, come up and speak to me. How does that feel? And you can see these girls starting to be real shy, but then really starting to grow, not only on the field, but like off the fields, and they're making friends. And I just think, I will do that all the time because I know how important it is. And maybe we didn't have that, and maybe that's the difference, right? And so there's so many ways in which we can still make a difference, even if we're not physically there, but our visibility still is super important. I know the impact that we still have, and yourself included, in still, obviously there's change, but there still needs to be change as well, on top of the already kind of change that we have. And so I'm still trying to figure out the best way to kind of be involved in that. But it's something that I'm really kind of feel very strongly about, that I don't just want to be like, okay, bye, have fun type thing,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, putting it like it's a duty that you love, I think, is the best way of explaining it. And it always makes me feel so good when it's people like you who have that kind of influence, and you have had so much footballing success yourself, but the way in which you're wanting to give back and improve things for, honestly, everybody who's going to come after you, and at the same time honoring those who came before you. It makes so much sense why you're so successful. You are exactly the kind of person that women's football needs. And I'm so grateful that we have you, Jess. So this was so much fun. I'm so grateful that you took the time to come on and tell us about your Euros journey. Thank you so much. I'm going to be cheering for Seattle as always.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for listening. Jess is back with Seattle and already scoring diving headers, so it's safe to say she's feeling more like herself and bringing that confidence and tenacity to the rain. Before we let you go, we've got a new segment. It's our linked up voicemail of the week presented by Verizon. Each week, we want to hear from you, so call and leave us a voicemail at 855-611-4050, and you may be featured on a future episode of Friendlies. This week's caller is Kara from Raleigh.
Hi, Sam. This is Kara from Raleigh. So I'm a huge fan of The Courage. I'm also a huge fan of your podcast. And I'm so excited that Taylor is releasing a new album. I'm sure you are too. So my question for you is, what era do you think the U.S. women's national team is in right now?
Kara, thank you so much for calling. I am so excited about the new album, and I have been listening to Taylor Swift ever since she announced it. I love your question, too. If the U.S. women's national team was currently in one of Taylor Swift's eras, I feel like it would be Lover. Obviously, that's my era, so I might be biased, but Lover is just like, look, I dyed a little bit of my hair blue. I'm young. I'm in love. I'm just crushing it. So much is ahead of me. That's where I feel the U.S. women's national team is at right now. Everybody's getting along. We're just having the time of our lives. We love Emma Hayes. And, we're just out here playing well, enjoying it, loving it. So I think it's Lover. Kara, thank you so much for calling in. That was our linked up voicemail of the week presented by Verizon. If you want to join us for this segment, the phone lines are open. So give me a call at 855-611-4050. Leave a message, ask me a question, and you could be the next featured listener thanks to our friends at Verizon. Next week's guest is the one and only Leslie Osborne, former U.S. women's national teamer, owner of Bay FC, and host of her own podcast, Redefined. We're chatting with her all about Bay FC ahead of their big game at Oracle Park in San Francisco next weekend against the Washington Spirit. Make sure you're following along with us across social media for live updates on all the NWSL games this weekend. Plus, come and join us on Discord. Discord is a community-based social network, and we're so excited to be creating conversation on the platform. I've loved getting to know our listeners even more on there. So sign up, come be with us. You can find the women's game through the Men in Blazers channel. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you soon.